Welcome to the Speak Up English channel. Are you ready to embark on an exciting journey of language learning? At Speak Up, we're passionate about helping you improve your English listening skills. Our lessons are packed with engaging content, including short talks, conversations, reports, news, and captivating short stories. So grab your headphones, sit back, and let's dive into the world of English together. Remember, every word you listen to brings you one step closer to fluency. Let's make this learning adventure fun and rewarding. Subscribe now and join our community at the Speak Up English channel. Let's learn, laugh, and grow together. Subscribe to Speak Up.
Why Can't the World's Greatest Minds Solve the Mystery of Consciousness? By Oliver Burkeman. Here's what the article is about, in a nutshell. Despite the best efforts of some of the world's greatest minds, the mystery of consciousness remains unsolved. Philosophers, neuroscientists, cognitive scientists, and physicists are all trying to figure out what consciousness is, how it arises, and how it is related to the physical world. Some believe that consciousness is an emergent property of complex neural networks, while others think it is a fundamental aspect of the universe. Despite the lack of consensus, many researchers agree that consciousness is a deeply puzzling phenomenon that may never be fully understood. That's the argument in a nutshell. One of the main challenges in understanding consciousness is defining it. While most people have an intuitive sense of what it means to be conscious, it is difficult to pin down a precise definition that everyone agrees upon. Some define consciousness as subjective experience or the ability to experience sensations, thoughts, and emotions. Others define it as self-awareness or the ability to reflect on one's own mental states. Still, others define it in terms of information processing or the ability to integrate and respond to sensory input. Another challenge is that consciousness seems to be intimately connected to the brain, yet it is not reducible to it. While it is clear that changes in the brain can affect consciousness, such as through brain damage, drugs, or anesthesia, it is not clear how exactly the brain generates consciousness. Some theories propose that consciousness arises from the complex interactions between neurons and their connections, but this does not explain why some complex networks, such as those in the gut, do not seem to give rise to consciousness. Furthermore, consciousness seems to have a subjective quality that cannot be fully captured by objective measurements. For example, two people could have identical brain activity while looking at a red apple, but one person might experience the color as more vibrant or pleasing than the other. This raises the question of whether consciousness is a purely objective phenomenon that can be studied using scientific methods, or whether it requires a more subjective approach. Despite these challenges, researchers are making progress in understanding consciousness. Neuroimaging studies have helped identify brain regions that are consistently active during conscious experiences, such as the prefrontal cortex and thalamus. Studies of patients with brain injuries or disorders have also provided insights into the neural mechanisms underlying consciousness. Additionally, research on altered states of consciousness, such as meditation or psychedelic experiences, is shedding light on the potential role of different brain regions and neurotransmitters in generating conscious experiences. Some studies have even suggested that consciousness may be a fundamental aspect of the universe, akin to space and time. While the mystery of consciousness may never be fully solved, ongoing research and interdisciplinary collaboration may bring us closer to understanding this elusive phenomenon. However, it is important to recognize that consciousness is a complex and multifaceted phenomenon, and any attempts to reduce it to a simple explanation may be misguided. As philosopher David Chalmers famously put it, the hard problem of consciousness is the problem of explaining how and why we have phenomenal experiences, a problem that may never be fully solved, but one that is worth exploring nonetheless. So, the mystery of consciousness remains unsolved as researchers from various disciplines struggle to define it, understand its relationship to the brain, and explain its subjective nature. While progress has been made in identifying brain regions involved in conscious experiences and exploring altered states of consciousness, the hard problem of explaining why we have these experiences remains elusive. As research continues and collaboration between disciplines grows, we may inch closer towards unraveling this enigma, but for now, consciousness remains one of the most profound mysteries of human existence.
Listen carefully. You will hear a telephone conversation between a travel consultant and a customer.
Good afternoon, Dreamtime Travel. How can I help you?
Oh, hello. I'm interested in the holidays you offer along the coast near here.
Yes, we operate several tours up the coast. Where in particular did you want to go?
Well, I like the sound of the holiday that mentioned whales. Was it, whale watching?
Oh, that's our Whale Watch experience. It's very popular and it's based in a lovely little town with nice beaches.
Oh, right. And how long does it last?
It's 2 days. That includes 4 hours travel time each way from here.
Good. I don't want to be away any longer than that. So, is that by coach?
Actually, it's by minibus. We like to keep those tours small and personal, so we don't take a whole coachload of people. In fact, we only take up to 15 people on this tour, although we do run it with just 12 or 13.
Oh, right. So, do you run these tours often?
Well, it depends on the time of year. Of course, in peak times, like the summer holidays, we do them every weekend. But at the moment, it's usually once a month at most.
And when is the next one going?
Let me see. There's one in 3 weeks' time, which is April the 18th. And then we don't have another one until June the 2nd.
All right. And is April a good time to go?
Pretty good, though the really good time is later in the year. I have to say, though, that the whale sighting is only one of the many things offered.
Really?
Yes, the hotel itself where you stay has great facilities. It's called the Palisades.
The Paris what?
No, it's actually the Palisades. Pallissades. It's right on the main beach there.
Oh, I see.
All of the rooms have nice views and the food is really good there too.
Oh, right. And what about the other things, that are included in the price?
Oh, there are lots of things. If you don't want to do the Whale Watch cruise, your guide will take anyone who is interested either on a bushwalk through the national park near the hotel, and there's no extra charge for that, or on a fishing trip. That's an extra $12, I think. And there's also a reptile park in town. That costs more or less the same.
No, I think I'd prefer whales to snakes.
Yeah. And if you just want to relax, you're free to sit by the hotel pool or go down the beach. Oh, and they also have tennis courts at the hotel, but you have to pay for those by the hour. But there are table tennis tables downstairs, and they're part of the accommodation package. Just speak to your guide.
Well, that sounds good. So how much is the basic tour price?
At this time of year, it's usually around $300, but let me check. It's actually $280.
And the next tour, are there any places on that one?
How many people is it for?
There are 2 of us.
Yes, that should be fine. Can I just mention that we require all bookings to be made at least 14 days before you travel to avoid cancellations of tours? And if you cancel within 7 days of departure, you will have to pay 50% of your total booking.
Okay.
And you also need to pay a 20% deposit at the time of booking.
Can I pay that by credit card?
Yes, you can.
All right, what I'll do is I'll talk to my partner and get back to you.
Fine. So I'll make a provisional booking, shall I? 2 for the Whale Watch experience. Let me issue you with a customer reference number for when you call back. Do you have a pen?
Yes.
OK. It's 39745T. That's T for Tango. When you call back, ask to speak to the tour manager. That's me, Tracy.
Fine, I will.
Listen carefully.
Antarctic science and climate change. It's not just about the penguins. Goings-on at the far end of the Earth need a lot more attention.
The Arctic and Antarctic are, fittingly, polar opposites. The first is an ocean surrounded by continents. The second, a continent surrounded by an ocean. In the one, communities of indigenous people and settlers. In the other, only transients, there for a season or two. Nuclear-armed powers have faced off across the Arctic since the Cold War. The same conflict saw a governance regime of peaceful scientific collaboration created for Antarctica that is more utopian in its conception than any other agreement in the annals of diplomacy. The North has the majesty of polar bears, the South the pathos of penguins. The two are united in facing profound upheaval because of global warming. But compared with the changes affecting the Arctic, those threatening the Antarctic are greatly underappreciated. In part, that lack of attention is because of Antarctica's remoteness. The biggest base there, America's McMurdo, is almost 4,000 kilometres from the nearest city, Christchurch in New Zealand. Visits are for the most part made only by scientists, adventurers and support staff. In part, too, there is seeming stasis. Change in Antarctica is not like that in Alaska, where melting permafrost buckles roads and topples buildings, or in Siberia, where the smoke from burning tundra paints the skies and sears the lungs. Indeed, for a long time, scientists tended to see Antarctica as relatively stable, at least over the short to medium term. Yes, its ice sheets contain enough water to raise the seas by 60 metres, but any collapse would take centuries. That turns out to have been complacent. Earth's largest refrigerator is, as we describe in this week's Science and Technology pages, showing alarming signs of a big thaw, one which will have consequences for the rest of the planet. Extreme events like the disappearance of an area of sea ice the size of Greenland during last year's austral winter are a symptom of a quickening underlying instability. Glaciologists are talking of a regime shift. Parts of one of the enormous ice sheets that cover 98% of the continent are sliding towards the seas. Water shifting from Antarctica's continental bedrock into the Southern Ocean contributed just 4% to global sea level rise 20 years ago. Today its share is 12%, and it will rise relentlessly in the decades ahead. This effect has an underappreciated corollary. As Antarctica melts, the gravitational attraction its shrinking ice exerts on the neighbouring seas weakens. That causes sea levels elsewhere to rise even faster. Sea level rise originating from Antarctica will affect Australia and Oceania, but it will also disproportionately affect North America. Melting ice sheets do more than raise sea levels. They also bring shifts in atmospheric circulation that stretch to the equator and beyond, changing weather in the Sahel and Amazonia. And the Southern Ocean is one of the world's largest carbon sinks, responsible for absorbing 40% of all the climate-changing carbon dioxide that the oceans as a whole suck up every year. If it warms, it will absorb less, an effect that may be aggravated when trillions of tons of fresh water come off the great frozen south and alter ocean currents. Despite all this, some countries are cutting their budgets for Antarctic research. This flies in the face of reason. The measurement and modelling of ice sheets lags well behind the study of the atmosphere and of ocean currents. If the implications of the worsening situation are to be properly appreciated and planned for, this needs fixing fast. Debates over what needs doing most urgently and how best to cooperate to get it done should be galvanizing the 56 countries that are signatories to the Antarctic Treaty. They may not be able to protect the Antarctic environment, a duty to which the treaty's environmental protocol commits them. They can at least increase their efforts to learn what the changes being forced on the empty continent in their charge mean for the rest of the world.
Listen carefully. You will hear a radio programme giving parents advice about buying cots for their babies to sleep in.
Hello and welcome to today's Buyer Beware programme, where we give you some tips on how to spend your money wisely. Now, in today's show, we're looking at beds for children and babies. Let's start by looking at baby cots. That's for children of up to 3 years old. We tested 3 different cots, all in the budget price range, and as usual, we will feature the good points, the problems, and our verdict. The first cot we looked at was by BabySafe, and it had several good points to recommend it. Our testers liked the fact that it had 4 wheels, so it was easy to move around. The only slight problems with this cot were that it had no brakes, but they didn't think that mattered too much. At first they were a bit concerned about the side bar because they felt babies could trap their fingers in it. But our testers felt that this was unlikely to happen, so they've given this one a verdict of satisfactory. The next cot was by Choice Cots, and this time our testers were pleased to find a cot which is simple to put together, unlike others we looked at. On the minus side, our testers did not like the fact that the side of the cot did not drop down, making it difficult to pick up newborn babies. However, the real problem with this cot was the space between the bars. Our testers found they were too wide and a baby could easily trap his head. We felt this was a real safety hazard, and so we've labelled this one dangerous, I'm afraid.
Listen carefully.
Describing people.
You know, there's something I've often thought about with you two. You're very similar in some ways, but there are a lot of differences.
What do you mean, Clive?
Well, I've known you two for a long time, and I can't help noticing some pretty striking differences.
Like what?
Yeah, the way you dress, for example. You both dress very fashionably, but you have your own particular style.
What's my style then, Clive?
Casual, of course. Look at what you're wearing now. Casual shoes, casual jacket. I mean, when was the last time you wore a tie, for example?
Must have been our wedding, wasn't it?
I suppose so. Nothing wrong with that, is there? I like the way I dress. I feel comfortable in these clothes.
June, on the other hand, is always very smart and looks more conservative.
No, I don't think you can tell much from our appearance, Clive. What about personality? Do you think our characters are different as well?
Yes, of course they are. What I mean is you're both very self-confident, but there's a difference. Anthony, you'd say you were sociable, wouldn't you?
Sociable? Yes, very much so. I really enjoy company.
Exactly, whereas June isn't at all outgoing, are you, June?
I suppose not. I do enjoy my own company.
And that's why you seem shy. It's not that you are, but you seem very shy to someone who doesn't know you.
What else have you noticed, Clive?
Mainly that you're both very sensitive people. Anthony, I'd say you're sensitive in a slightly negative way.
What do you mean?
Well, you are quite easily offended.
I suppose that's true. I just think people should be a bit more careful about what they say.
What about me?
You're a very caring person, very sensitive towards others. Anyway, you're two of the nicest people I know, which is why I feel I can say all of this to you.
Speak up.